no matter what their diagnosis or what their sort of stage in life, can respond to this. And it's a real coming together that you can really see through the power of music.
Hi, I'm Lance, and this is UNSILENT, a speak series by No Stigmas that champions mental health advocacy and challenges the stigmas that all too often prevent people from getting the help they need. We're so glad you're here. And in today's episode, we get to meet Erika. Now, Erika is the mother of the wonderful, wonderful Micaela, who is living with Down syndrome with a global developmental delay and is also nonverbal. They're based in the UK, and Erika is passionate about advocating for the therapies and the services for her daughter and individuals that she calls are differently abled, not disabled. Throughout our entire conversation with Erika, we really dive into the intersection between mental health and the daily experiences of these differently abled individuals. Erika's advocacy celebrates all the many gifts that her daughter Micaela has to share with this world and reminds us of the value and importance of fighting for inclusivity and the mental health equity of all. And in our second part of our two-part conversation with Erika, we dive in straight away on the stigma of the word disabled and how she says we should advocate for using differently abled, highlighting how all of us are unique and have value and gifts to share. We also talk about Erika's charity Shades of Different, which produces music and uses music therapy to help not only those that are differently abled like her daughter Micaela, but really reminds us of the need for inclusivity and equity for all.
I think the word disabled does a disservice, because actually we're all differently able if you think about it. And just because you're not able to do one thing doesn't mean you're not able to do something else. And all these individuals offer us something different. And it's all about diversity. Diversity is what makes the world go round. So, just because, there's probably 10 million things that I can't do and whatever. I would never do sort of hang gliding or I don't know, bungee jumping, stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that I'm disabled. So the point is that we're all differently able. There's lots of things we can't do, lots of things that we can do, and the same with differently able people. So that's why differently able is the right term. I would ban the term disabled. I want to change the dictionary to say differently able, because that reflects the fact that we all have these different abilities and we all have different things we can offer and different things we can bring to the table and we can share. We should see it as a diversity as a whole rather than a lack of something, because it's not. And actually Down syndrome individuals, if you want to take children with Down syndrome, they actually have an extra chromosome, so they have something more, not something less. So and they smile and they light up the world and they have that ability to live in the moment that we could all learn from. So let's learn from it. Let's take a leaf out of their book. The way I see it is it's a melting pot. It's a potpourri of different things, and we should embrace it. Which is why inclusion is at the forefront of this whole campaign, this whole charity of mine. And one of the main tracks on the actual CD is called Include Me, and it's an anthem for inclusion. Include me, hear me out, find out what I'm about. And it's got a really powerful message, and we hope it's going to be an anthem for inclusion in schools, because that's what it's all about. Let's all include each other, let's all embrace each other, and the world will be a better place as a result. So Shades of Different is now an official registered charity in the Dorset/Hampshire area. We've got, obviously I mentioned we've got the live blog, which is an international element, because that's for everybody from all over the world. We've got stories from all over the world there sharing, important obstacles and things that they've overcome, whatever. Shades of Different itself as an awareness raising campaign was born as a result of what happened with Micaela, and then the desire to really give these differently able children a voice, and the rights that they deserve and whatever. Our objectives as a charity now is to be able to raise money to really make a difference to them in terms of like sensory equipment in schools and more of those therapies that they vitally need. Music therapy, because we want to run music therapy sessions in the community, and then occupational therapy, sense integration occupational therapy specifically for non-verbal children, so they can then also access speech therapy and more of the speech therapy. And for instance, in Micaela's school at the moment, they have music therapy, but they don't have it all year round. So we want to be able to supplement that so they do have it all year round. So they don't just have a term at a time, whatever. So they can take full advantage of that, because that is an international vehicle of communication. And it's also why this whole venture was born out of music. I've always been passionate about music. I'm quite good at songwriting. Well, I'm quite good at writing poems, but when I write the songs, I know exactly what I want them to sound like. And I've been very fortunate in being able to get a music team around me that have helped me then bring the music to fruition in terms of exactly what I wanted to sound like. So with the Include Me track as well, I knew I wanted it to be a rock anthem with a rap verse as well, and whatever. And I had a sketch of more or less what I wanted it to sound like, and we were able to put that into action. And then we developed a club version of the track as well. So there's also a disco version of the track. We've got 3 different versions of different. So different. The original version was obviously the song that I wrote when I nearly lost Mickey, and then we have a sort of slightly more poppy version of the track, and then a version of the track in Italian, which is slightly more melodic. But I wanted to put it into Italian as well because I am Italian. So there's one Italian track on the CD, and then there's 5 other friends of mine who are really, impressive musicians who've put together tracks on diversity and inclusion, all specifically dedicated to Micaela, that are on the CD. It's a really eclectic mix of music, but it's fantastic. I mean, there's something for everybody on there, and everyone can enjoy it. It's quite upbeat, but there's also some slower tracks. For instance, there's a very talented musician on there called Catherine Hell. She's a French friend of mine who I connected with on LinkedIn. I've never actually met her, but we found that we were very much soulmates in terms of how we see music and how we see the world and whatever. And she wrote a beautiful track called Same Difference, which we've also included as an instrumental version. And she's an autodidact. She's taught herself to play the piano, and she plays the piano for like film soundtracks and whatever. She's really, really talented. So she played, wrote and sung this herself, and she's got an incredible voice as well. So that's another track to look forward to on the CD. There's a very talented friend of mine, Riccardo Crescenti, who unfortunately passed away at the beginning of this year from COVID, 45, 6-year-old daughter. It's an absolute travesty, but he wrote a beautiful track called Without Words, which just touches my heart every time, because he wrote it like it's a dialogue between myself and Micaela. So she's talking to me on the verse and I'm responding on the chorus, and it's a really powerful track. And my friend Susie Kimber, who's a very talented vocalist as well, wrote a beautiful track called Beautiful, which is just beautiful, really, and she has an astounding voice. So so there's a really interesting mix on there of beautiful tracks. Very talented musicians. Also my friend Steve Lee, who wrote a track called Anyway, with his son, who's got an awesome voice, and they've got a really nice sort of contrasting vocal on there, which is really special. So I'm very lucky to be able to put this together and make it happen, because when we produced Different, we thought about issuing as a single, and we never got round to it. So now we've issued a proper album with 11 tracks on it. So it's really, really something. So, and it's only £10 for the track, but it's going to go a long way to helping support these children in the long run with sensory equipment and therapies and so forth. So please do support us. Like I said, the website is shadesofdifferent.com. And on the main page, on the home page at the top, there's a link. It's a PayPal link, and you can go in and purchase a digital version of the track. Or you can contact me through the website or whoever, or through social. I'm on all social, and I can send you a physical copy of the CD if you like. A friend of mine works with Unlocking Memories, which is for people with Alzheimer's and elderly people and whatever. And she's seen the huge difference that music can have in terms of unlocking memories and whatever. So suddenly, someone in an old people's home or whatever who doesn't even look like they remember everything, whatever, they hear the music, whatever, and it sort of triggers a memory or something in their brain that just makes them respond or get up and dance and whatever. And suddenly for those moments, they're just a completely different person. It's a really powerful vehicle of communication, not just for differently able children, but all ages and abilities and whatever, no matter what their diagnosis or what their sort of stage in life, can respond to this. And it's a real coming together that you can really see through the power of music. I think a lot of people, particularly with autistic children or children who do show more behavioural challenges, often their parents are then told off by the system and whatever, and it's thought that their children are naughty, but actually they're not. They're showing behavioural challenges because of how their mental health is impacted, and this needs to be taken into account and needs to be responded to. So it is very important that we raise awareness, and that people become aware of the fact that the term disabled or differently able is not specific to someone in a wheelchair. It could be about anybody. It's not because you don't see it that it's not there. And people need to be aware. There's a lot of ignorance out there. I think sometimes people have come along to different abilities or other charities that we're part of and said, oh, but there's nothing wrong with these people, they're not disabled. And it's like, okay, but it's not just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it isn't there. And so a child that is showing some sort of behavioral difficulty is because of their mental health and because of their diagnosis, not because they're wanting to be naughty or wanting to challenge in any way. In fact, that is how they express themselves sometimes, through attracting attention to their behavior, because they don't know how else to do it. It does exist and it does happen because these children or these individuals get frustrated with themselves when they can't express what they need to, or they can't get through, and maybe they're non-verbal or whatever, they've got other challenges, and so they might end up self-harming. So obviously that is something to be aware of, and they often show that they don't want to do that, but they don't see any other alternative. So clearly the system needs to be able to respond to them before they get to that stage. Yeah, for instance, with Down syndrome children, certainly with Micaela and whatever, what doesn't help is when they say, oh yeah, but they're so happy, they're so lovable and whatever, like that's some sort of consolation prize. They've got an extra chromosome, which is a happy chromosome, and they are sort of happier, so to speak, and they've got this ability to smile and live in the moment and whatever. But that's not supposed to be, a consolation prize and whatever. It's just the way it's worded, the way it's said. It doesn't sound right, and it's not helpful. Or for instance, when a social worker said to me, oh, but we know that with Micaela what will be will be. What's that supposed to mean? That she won't amount to anything, that that we have to just leave her to be whatever, and not take care of her and not look out for her and not hope for something better for her future. That doesn't really mean anything, and again, it's not helpful. And those sort of things, they get me down, which is why, I'm all about awareness raising and overcoming that ignorance. And, I don't like people staring and whatever. If people, want to know more, they should come and ask the question, and want to find out more, but not staring in a nasty way and, pushing people away and not being inclusive and, saying things like, oh, but, they're so happy, oh, but they're so lovable, oh, but this, oh, but that, it doesn't help, and it puts a dampener on things, really. And the other thing that I want to say actually is that often people think that Down syndrome individuals suffer with something because of their diagnosis. They don't suffer. They don't suffer. Let's just make that clear. They have a diagnosis. They are different. They are differently able and whatever. But they're people just like us. They deserve to be respected and included for who they are, and they don't suffer. In fact, they live in the moment and they know how to smile, and when they know how to take adversity on the chin. So actually, they live better than we do. They don't suffer, and they don't deserve to be pitied, and all this sort of business of suffering and, oh, do you want to terminate your child because they've got Down syndrome or whatever. The abortion rate has been really high in terms of Down syndrome children, whatever, and we've been offered as parents really early on the option to abort children with Down syndrome. Now, you don't get that with any other disability, any other different ability, and I don't see why it should be any different with Down syndrome. It's no better or worse than anything else. In fact, it's 10 million times better from the point of view of how these children face the world. Getting society to have that message that these individuals deserve the same respect, human rights and opportunities and possibilities as we do. And so, in the future, that there are more job opportunities available, there are more role models available for them, and they are considered and taken into account when there's sort of play groups organised and external activities and other groups and whatever, that there is room for them to be considered and for them to be included and valued and for their voice to be heard, because their voice is a voice, whether they're non-verbal or not and whatever. They deserve to be heard, they deserve to be listened to, and they deserve to be seen and noticed, and their contribution should be valued, because the world is incomplete without it. We need the voices of everybody to be heard, and those human rights and whatever I'm passionate about. I want them to have as much as what we have and more, because they deserve it. Yeah, she's doing really well. She's in a brand new class. There's only 5 in her class now. She's got a male teacher. They're swimming 3 times a week. They do trampolining on a Thursday. So she's getting all her physical activity in. And I'm still fighting to give her regular occupational therapy, but we're slowly but surely getting there. And she really enjoys school. She runs onto the little school bus in the morning. She gets picked up just outside our house, and she gets brought back just after 3 o'clock and whatever, and she absolutely loves it, and she's a bundle of joy, and she's such a happy little girl, and she gives me so much just through her smile and through how she communicates with me, and I just want to give her everything. She's just given me so much, and I just want to give back to her and all the children like her, because they make the world a better place.
To go beyond the show, be sure to connect with us on all social media platforms at No Stigmas, and you can always reach out at nostigmas.org to connect with us and see how we can team up together to champion mental health equity for all. Remember, to break these stigmas, we must be unsilent. We'll see you next time.